Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Innovation Coffee. And today we're going to talk about the topic of early stage startups. And this topic can be covered from different perspectives. For example, from the financial side on all its phases, from like the team building side, from like a business development side. But today we're going to cover it from a more personal perspective, so on a personal path side, and so the path from university, like consulting and then startups, with our friend Alice, and who recently moved from a top tier consulting company to the startup world. And so welcome Alice, and thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to to have you here back with us. And so do you want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First of all, hi Davide, hi everyone. Thank you so much. I'm super excited and glad to be here to join a part of this initiative of yours. So I'm Alice, as Davide told. I'm Italian, but I've been living in Brazil for the last 5 years. So I did Bocconi, both at the bachelor at the master. But from the very beginning, I knew that I wanted my career to be as much international as possible. So I did my exchange in the US, then between the bachelor and the master, I did an internship in China, and then I was missing Latin America, so I thought, why not go into double degree to Brazil? So I was there. I was like, yeah, 1 year just passed quickly, so I'm gonna stay there for 1 year and go back to Italy. But then no, I felt in love. I literally felt in love with Brazil, with the country, with the energy. So I just couldn't leave. And I thought to myself, if I get into my first option as a first job, which was Bain in consulting, the consulting company, then I'm gonna stay here. And maybe the destiny wanted me to stay in Brazil because I got the offer in Bain. And so I decided to stay in Brazil, and I never came back to Italy. So when I joined Bain, it was in 2016. I spent there 3 years working in different industry, classic consulting experience. It was a very strong experience. Bain was a sort of family to me in Brazil because all my friends were from Bain. It was a very intense experience. But then at the end of the year, last year, I thought I was missing something, like I was missing the hands-on part, the implementation part. So I had a lot of friends that are entrepreneurs. I'm really in contact with the startup world, and I always had in the back of my mind the idea of starting my own business. But then I was like, if I leave the consulting world, which is a very structured one, and I jump into my own startup, maybe I'm not ready. So the best option for me is to do a quick time in an actual startup, in an ongoing startup, in order to learn how the environment is different. That's what I did. I joined for a very little while a digital fashion startup, but after that, when I left, I started my own brand, my startup, which is called Teres.
Teres. And what's the idea behind Teres? It's still like fashion industry, or is it something different? And so secondly, sorry, why Brazil for your startup? Did you think about like, was it just a consequence of the fact that you loved Brazil, or did you actually choose to stay in Brazil for the startup?
Okay, to your first question, Teres is a sustainable fashion brand that clothes out of use clothes. Meaning my raw material are used clothes from people that are just tired of their clothes that have some stains, they don't want them anymore. I collect them and I use them to give them new life, to make new clothes. So this is why it's sustainable, because I avoid a lot of clothes going to the landfills. And this is basically the idea. Why in Brazil? Of course, there is a personal reason, because I love Brazil and I cannot imagine leaving this country, but also because Brazil is one of the most disequal countries in the world. So while I was living in Europe, I knew that behind the fashion, there were the tailor in Bangladesh, the tailor in India that were not paid well, but I was not actually seeing that. Now that I'm in Brazil, I can see that this tailor is not in the other side of the world. It's like really living in my same town. So I realized how strong is this problem and how important it is to solve it in such a huge country as Brazil. So that's why I decided to start from Brazil. But of course, in the future, I would love Teres to be global and at some point to sell also in Italy. I'm Italian and I always be Italian, even if I will be living in Brazil.
Great. Alice, I'm sorry, what's the meaning of Teres? Is it Brazilian or?
No, it doesn't have a meaning. Teres is a name coming from, inspired my grandmother, which is called Teresina. So
Okay.
it's a brand for women. And the idea is, I'm a strong feminist. So the idea is to have a feminist brand to inspire independent women. I decided to name the brand after my biggest inspiration, which is my grandma.
That's very nice.
Really interesting. That's really an interesting idea, and I think I hope it will be successful. So let me go back to, let's say, the more organizational part of this startup. So I believe when you have to start a new company like yours, you need to think about a bit some of the ideas. And for example, one of the points is about the culture. So what type of culture do you want to have in your startup now or also in the future? So we know that there are different examples of cultures. There are some more hard cultures, for example, Amazon or other companies, maybe like the one also you were working before joining the startup. Or there are some cultures that are a bit more soft. So what is your idea behind, and which one do you think is the best for your new startup?
Okay, so let's say that the very reason why Teres was born was to fulfill its value. So its value of circular economy and of intersectional feminism. So of course, in this sense, I want people that really believe and live those values. So in this sense, I would like to have a strong culture, but a flexible one, because people change. The company itself is gonna change. Now it's me and a few more people. Then it's gonna be a bigger team. So the company change, and I want my culture to be able to change with the company. But at the same time, if we talk about way of working, at that point, I would be more flexible. Like I got from a very important mentor of mine that when you hire someone for your startup, it's very important for this individual to be hardworking, humble, and fast learner. So as long as you are committed to the purpose of the startup, you are hardworking, you learn fast, then if you want to work at night, you want to work while you have pizza, I don't care, as long as you deliver and you are responsible for your part, for your own result. So in this sense, I would like to be a little bit more soft.
Okay. So you think that overall the advantages are a bit for the startup are better in a kind of more soft culture?
By definition, a startup is something that is new. It's something that was not there before, and it's something that is changing. So the most important thing for a startup is to be adaptable, to change and to grow. But again, my startup, my idea is built to fulfill some value. So of course, those values are always going to have to guide the principle of my startup, and sometimes even be prioritized over financial issues, for example.
Okay, thank you. Interesting.
And Alicia, sorry, related to this, you mentioned you were working in consulting before your brief experience in the startup world and before launching yours. What did you learn from your consulting experience, or how did it prepare yourself to decide to do your own business? And also, how did you manage the transition between consulting and the startup world? So what were the key challenges, and how did you face them?
I always say that to me, consulting was a sort of extra master, because it was such a fast learning environment. I was getting in contact with many different experiences in the same week. I was doing quantitative analysis, qualitative research. I was talking with a financial company. So it was amazing, the possibility to learn that I had in consulting, which is the very first thing I got from consulting. And also what I got from consulting is definitely the problem-solving mindset, like the capacity to take a huge problem that seems impossible to solve, to break it down in smaller problem and to go through the smaller problem. Like this is really the biggest learning that I got from consulting. So it was a huge experience that really helped me face some of the challenges that I'm facing now as an entrepreneur. And I I for sure do not regret it. But it was time to change. When you are a consultant, you don't really implement. You stay at the point of doing the analysis and giving the strategy. And I was really missing that. I was really missing the hands-on part, the understanding from making mistake. So the startup world is giving me all of that.
Cool. And so, sorry.
I was just wondering how easy it was to move, like from a to a more hands-on perspective. Like, what did you? Yeah.
So what startup and consulting have in common is to be an hardworking environment, of course, and to be focused on results. But then for the rest, they're completely different. Like consulting is a super structured environment. Everything works in framework. There are a lot of engineers that really love to work in framework. And it's a hierarchical environment, which has some drawbacks, of course, because you are more limited. But on the other side, you always have someone taking your hands, telling you what you have to do, what is going to be your next challenge, what skills you have to develop. When you are in a startup, like a big startup, let's say in a Series B, Series C, then you have more autonomy for sure. You have to be more risk taker, let's say, and to make decisions that haven't been made before, to do something that was not made before and you don't have a framework for. When you go to create your own startup, then you really need to go out of your comfort zone. And going out of your comfort zone doesn't mean to talk to an engineer when you are an economist. It means to learn, I don't know, in my case, it was learning the basic of design. So I was spending my nights learning how to destroy a piece of clothes in order to build another, to iron my clothes. And this is like really a challenge that really humbles you. And like this part of becoming more humble, I think it was the most important learning that I got going from consulting to startup. And the other big difference that I got in this switch is my relationship with the quality of the result. When you are in consulting, you look for perfection. Like you want the perfect slide with all the icons, with the best analysis, because the client is paying huge money for your slides. So of course you want the best slide. When you are an entrepreneur, if you look for perfection, you are never going to start. You are never going to get your business out of the paper. So at the very beginning, when I was doing the MVP and I was doing my first pieces, I was like, oh my gosh, this is not well done. I would never wear that. How can I pretend to sell this? But at the end, if I was looking for perfection, then maybe I would not be here talking to you because I would have never sold my first clothes. So I think this is another thing that I had to learn coming out from consulting and starting in startup.
Yeah, that's quite a big difference for sure. I mean, one is more like, let's say, accuracy, and the other one is a bit more trying to don't lose too much time and go through it, because if not, you cannot deliver that.
Yeah.
But what about instead of before, like university path, and what did you learn there that helped you to start this new venture, and what are mainly the skills that you think that are useful when studying during the university and can be useful for a new entrepreneur?
So first of all, I do recognize I've been really privileged because I had the opportunity to attend one of the best universities when we talk about business administration, which is Bocconi. So when I was at Bocconi, I was learning a lot of theory. I think especially when we talk about Italian university, you learn a lot of theory that at that point seemed kind of blurred, kind of unusable at some point. But now it is super useful to actually know what is a business plan, what is marketing, what is a financial statement. So all those theory actually are being useful now because I have many other friends that are super innovative, that have an entrepreneurial mindset, but they have to start from scratch learning what does it mean to do a market estimation, for example. So all this theoretical background that I got from university is really, really important. And of course, the other thing that I got from university is networking. So many of my mentors, many of the friends that are helping me now through this process of startupping come from my years at university. So, and of course, it's been an amazing year, having a lot of fun. So I got a little bit of fun from my university years.
Of course, that's something everybody keeps in their heart, and like you had a lot of fun at the university. Now it's time to go back working and give back to society what I took like in those 5 years. Yeah. Now I want to move back to your idea and ask you if moving like to the themes that you mentioned, so about feminism, about sustainability, that I believe are two very big topics right now. And if you want to expand a little bit about that and how they will affect your brand identity and what you believe like your brand was going to be.
Sure. So I've always loved fashion. Maybe it's a cliche because I'm from Milan, but I've always loved to put together outfit, to dress up, to express myself through clothes. Because I do believe that fashion is a very powerful tool to express oneself. But the problem with today's fashion industry is that no one is expressing themselves. They are all following the rules, the beauty standard that the fashion industry is putting down on the magazine. So if you look through a magazine, now things are changing a little bit, but you used to see the same type of girl, and this was really toxic, in my opinion. This was not respecting my ideal of feminism. So what I'm thinking now with this brand is to create a new way of doing fashion. So on one side, the sustainability. Fashion is the second most polluting industry in the world. To give you some data, every year, 92 million of textile waste is created, which is huge. It's like saying every second a rubbish of clothes trash is put it into the landfill. So it's something unimaginable. People are using clothes as if it was a piece of paper that you use and then you can dispose. So on one side, I wanted to act here at this problem of sustainability, but then fashion is a huge social problem because the people in the value chain are not valued at all, especially if we go at the beginning of the value chain. So if we talk about the tailor, I was mentioning at the beginning, the tailor, it's like a commodity, so it's not value. He's paid something it's not even enough to afford let's say, a decent way of living. And many of the people, like the strong majority of the people that are in the fashion industry are women. So at the end, to me, everything is connected. Like patriarchy, I'm against this, of course, strongly against. My whole life is being against this concept that is really turning down the world, putting the world on his knees. And so that's why, to me, feminism goes together with sustainability, with environmental sustainability. So how all of these inspire my brand? The sustainability, of course, as I said before, all my clothes are made out of used clothes. So instead of throwing off these clothes, of putting it into the landfills, it gains a new life and it goes through new experiences. On the other side, feminism is represented in many aspects. First of all, in the people that I want to involve in my company. So I want to make sure there is diversity. So of course I can say, I like to have a lot of women. It's not that I exclude men, but I want to give chances to women because women have not as many chances than men. But my kind of feminism, the feminist I believe in, is intersectional feminism, meaning that I do not only look at the difference between men and women, but I look at many other social levels. For example, race, class. There are many other social elements that impact the condition of an individual. So I'm a woman, but I'm a white, let's say, standard-looking European woman. So my life is completely different from the one of some friends of mine in Brazil that are from a lower class that are Black. So I need to consider all these levels. And that's what I do in my brand. So when I hire someone, I try to look at someone that can complete, let's say, the portfolio of images of individuals that are in my brand. And especially when I present my clothes, when I choose the model, I want the model to be as much different as possible. I want to have a Black model, a white one, a trans model, a oversized model. Like what I want to represent with my brand is that every woman is unique. We are all different, but we are all beautiful in our own way. So I really want to break down this toxic idea of fashion as putting just one standard of beauty.
I totally agree. I believe it's very noble, both from a social perspective and from like an environmental perspective. And so having these values in mind, which are your dreams for your startup and for the future of your story.
Okay, so far, my startup is just a brand. It's a brand that takes clothes from people that don't use them anymore and that convert them into new one, as I already said. But this part of converting is done by just one tailor now that is helping me, and like it's such a blessing in my life, this tailor Margarita that is helping me. In the future, I see this startup being worldwide. I see Teres worldwide with a lot of tailors all around the world picking these clothes from people that don't want them anymore and converting them into new pieces. So creating a sort of platform. I imagine Teres as a sort of platform where if you do not want clothes anymore, you can give them and get credits. And on the other side, if you are a tailor and you want to work, but you want to be independent, you want to have your own atelier, you can totally do that. You can work for a specific project, let's say for a specific batch of clothes, batch of product, and gain a living salary that is fair. So I really imagine this to happen all over the world, starting from the country that need it the most. So besides Brazil, many other countries in South America, like Bolivia, and then India, China, Bangladesh, and all these countries where all the clothes that fast fashion is putting in mass in the European and US market are being created. So this is my dream for Teres in the future.
That's amazing. Like, I really hope it's gonna be like it's gonna happen. And I'm thinking about it, and like, so basically you have a brand which is like an umbrella brand which is covering the activities of different professionals, different tailors who are more than tailors because they need to also see how the product is going to be. So probably there are going to be different personalities within your full grown idea. And I believe that's going to be like a challenge to put all of them together under a unique view. I don't know if you guys can see my point. So it's going to
No, like I can totally get your point, David. And now I'm super small in the sense that my idea was built in April 2020, so this year already. So I have to do everything. Going back to what I was saying before, that when you create your own startup, you really need to get out of my comfort zone. Now it's me doing the design, it's me doing the pickup process, it's me doing everything besides the tailoring part the sewing part for which I do have a tailor. But in the future, to scale this process, because of course we have some values, we have some principles, but if we want to have a big impact, we need to scale. To scale this process, I will need to have a lot of specialized skilled individuals. So someone to do the design, someone that is able to put these clothes, because it's like a puzzle, like you have all these clothes, you have to break them down and then put that together to create new clothes. Like my very challenge is to make this process scalable. I'm also considering using digital platform in order to do that, but we really need someone in charge of doing that at scale and doing that with actual creativity and with actual knowledge of what it is doing, because so far in my design, I use my own experience, my experience I had as a consumer or working for other fashion brands. But of course, I'm not a designer. So in the future, I will need professional to take care of all these parts.
And okay. Alicia, on this point, since also in our podcast we had also previously people coming from accelerators or these kind of realities. Do you think that could be useful for you to like receive the help from an accelerator to help you scale on this sense? Or and second question is related to Brazil. So do you think is it a favorable environment for startups in terms also of like easiness to start the business and also to scale more quickly on this sense?
Okay, so to your first point, definitely I would need an accelerator. So far, I'm a solo founder, and I do believe the first thing I need is a co-founder, because you need someone to exchange thoughts, someone to be on the same boat, on the same foot as you are. But an accelerator can really look things from a different perspective, helping you to put them, let's say, ongoing, and also giving you the means, the tools, both economical and skills tool. So I would like to have an accelerator, and I'm looking for it. And Brazil, it's a fairly good environment. Not Brazil, São Paulo. São Paulo is a huge city with 12 million inhabitants, and it's a very good environment for startup. It wasn't, let's say, 5 years ago, but in the last 3 years, many founds started going to Brazil. Many innovative persons, not just Brazilian, but also from other countries, started going to Brazil. Now we have, I would say, 11 unicorns. So the environment, it's really growing. There are a lot of accelerators. Every year there are new accelerators that are growing. And what it's important in this environment is networking, of course. You need to introduce yourself in this environment, talk to people that understand the language you are talking. And São Paulo, it's really an amazing place to do that.
Okay, interesting.
Alicia, from my side, I was wondering, so in our last episode, we had an interview about sustainability and innovation. And we basically concluded that innovation cannot happen without sustainability. And to be sustainable, you have to innovate. I first wanted to check whether you also agree with this statement. And second is, do you think that the fact that people are now paying more attention to sustainability could be a boost for your business, or at least help it, in the sense that I'm not sure, I don't know how you're doing the procurement of the old clothes, but I guess that if people are more conscious and more careful about how they use and how they produce waste, maybe it's easier to collect clothes and produce new ones.
Okay. So going to your first part of the question, I do believe in order to have a positive innovation, meaning an innovation that has positive externalities for the whole society, you need to be sustainable. You can also decide you do not want to have a positive innovation, like you want to just serve your customers and who cares about the rest of society. But I do believe that if we are going this way, like, the pandemic is not the only thing that is going to affect this world. So in order to have a positive innovation, I truly believe that you need to look at sustainability at various levels: environmental, social, and of course financial sustainability, because at the end we are still in a capitalistic world. And when you talk about the other point, people being more aware, of course, like if we think about all the climate strike in the last 2-3 years, people started to realize that something is not working properly. Mm-hmm. Still, we are far from saying that the world really believes that we need to change. Yes, people are more aware, but they do not believe that they all think that is an actual problem. Yes, they know there is climate change, but I don't know if it's a problem, or at least it doesn't affect myself. So this is still something that needs to improve. If I think about the specific sector of fashion, I can say that has becoming more strong, becoming stronger, the movement of fashion sustainability in the last 8 to 10 years. But still, I always say that fashion sustainability is a bubble. When I talk to people in this world, they're always the same people. They all agree with each other, but to me, there's no point in agreeing with each other all the time, because you're never gonna go on. You know, what we need to do is to burst this bubble and put other people in this world to make this world more accessible. So the other reason why I want to make this no friction experience for customer to give me their clothes is because I want to make sustainability super simple for people. Like, being sustainable is not being perfect, of course. Like, it happens that you use some plastics, it happens that you are not recycling, but some basic behavior we can all change. And so with my startup, with Teres, I want to make it easy to change. And I want to make it cool also, because I don't want sustainable fashion to be seen as something, yes, hipster, good for the world, but not fashionable. My clothes are fashionable. I'm from Milan, so of course I want them to have a good style and for everyone to represent themselves. So yes, sustainability is taking more place, but we have still a huge way to go.
I agree, and I believe that there is a huge way to go, but you are set like in a huge direction, a river which is getting hype and is getting much more consumer awareness. So I believe that it's a very hot topic, and it's gonna like change how markets works, because like circular economy and sustainability are changing the position of the different actors and how companies work. So how companies will try to bridge like all these instances and put them together like frameworks to like to overcome the linear model of consumption towards a more circular model. And so like I'm very glad we heard your experience, and I'm really look forward to see how your idea will evolve, because now like you look super energetic and look super like ready to see to like to walk on your path, and I'm curious to see like where you're gonna be like in 1 or 2 years.
Thank you, Davide. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly. Finger crossed, and I'm curious if you wanna like have another interview, like maybe in 2 years, like we're gonna be here to ask you like maybe the same question, and you're gonna have completely different answers.
I would love that. Maybe we're gonna be in the world that takes for granted sustainability because it's gonna be the rules. I hope so.
Exactly. So thank you very much to all, and
Thank you.
have a good evening.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank
Good luck.
you. Bye.
Grazie, Alice.